Hello, I'm Brenda Harkins with Loud is Not a Language, and we are here on the VIP Roundtable with Dawn Zieger today, talking about her VIP, which is her voice, her influence, and her purpose. Dawn is Donna is a graduate of Dartmouth. She's an Ivy League grad with a master's in public health. She is an encourager. She is a person who sees people and processes and where they're at and how to get them to a better place. She sees pieces of the puzzle that other people don't see, or she sees how to fit them together in a way that is so unique. And she has been such a blessing to me in that area. I'm looking forward to you hearing from her about that. Welcome, my friend, Dawn. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
I'm so glad you're here today. We're gonna start off talking about the voice and how getting to know what our voice is, meaning what the message is that we carry because of what we've lived. I think that knowing our value and then remembering our victories are two keys to really learning our voice. And so with value, you did not always know that, did you?
Yeah, no, I spent most of my life just kind of rolling through it and taking the opportunities which came along my way. And God was real strategic, like putting me in certain situations throughout my life. When I got out of the military, no idea what I was going to do. I got placed in a situation where I got exposure to technology, and I found I could really do that. And then I ended up with a job. We moved to Texas for my husband to go to seminary. And I ended up interviewing for a job I never applied for because they accidentally sent my resume out. And that was kind of the start of my career. And so God has always placed me in situations to expand my viewpoint and understanding. And I think I struggled with I didn't know I was smart till my mid 30s because I struggled in school. Like I don't learn that way. How I learn is I see things and then I relate them to other things that I've seen. And so early in my career, I ended up in manufacturing working as a temp. So I saw the line and the production and the quality and how everybody interrelates. And that's always been a real tactile thing for me. And then getting exposure to insurance and healthcare and social services and community development work through some of my personal work, it's helped me really see things and what's similar and inputs and outputs, and it's crazy. So I am so grateful that I've had these experiences, but it's not just the experiences because I didn't know my voice, didn't know my power. I've had people, and I could tell you exactly who they were, that were like guideposts. I'm taking the step and they go, gosh, I see this in you and I see you being really good at this. I see that you're special in this way. And I've always had those people that have drawn out and pulled out things that I could never look in the mirror and see myself for. And so here I am now in a situation. I am 44 in 2020, and I can see less clearly. I got to look at a distance, but I can see myself more clearly and can submit to the journey. I think that's something that, I was always striving, and I just got to submit to the journey and let it unfold and let it happen. And just be seeking God in the middle of it, and He will unfold those things for me.
That's good. I love it. What a blessing that there have been those people for you that have called that out, because that's powerful. And we don't all have those experiences. So that is a huge blessing that you had those people that saw that and called out your unique gifts. That's awesome. With the victories that we have, it's funny because a lot of times we don't recognize what our victories are. Or if we recognize them, we're moving on to the next battle. And so our focus is on the next battle instead of the victory that was just won. But I think that when we take time to reflect and look on the victories that we have won, that really shows us where our voice has had an impact and where we have an opportunity to have greater impact. So talk to us about some of your victories that have impacted your voice and your influence.
Gosh, I think my victories have been a slow burn over time, and you don't realize when they're happening. One of the fabulous opportunities I had was to take my business nerdiness and work in a public hospital setting and create a care model for the homeless. And so it started out as a project management opportunity. It turned into a team building opportunity. And then it turned into a construction project to bring together social services, physical health, and behavioral health care because somebody passed away and left a large amount of money. So here I am in the middle of a circumstance and I'm going, you want me to like help build a building? Is there anybody else more qualified to do this? And there wasn't. And so I think God has continually put me in situations where there's not somebody else more qualified, so I'll try. And I have grown so much through that and people kind of pushing me forward through that. So I would say that's, one big victory. Another one was, I applied to Dartmouth, not even understanding like the Ivy League thing. I didn't even know. And I thought I'll apply to that as a second choice. I had another school in mind thinking I would never get in because I flunked statistics the first time. And this is the kind of program where you do epidemiology and you learn about all this nerdy stuff about the scientific evidence of health interventions. I thought I will never get in, and I got in and I got a scholarship. And I get through this program and you're just so overwhelmed because everybody was wonderful in completely different ways. And in the end of the program, they asked me to be the class speaker at graduation. And so, it's such an endorsement and joy of my heart. The degree is wonderful, but for my classmates and peers to acknowledge me and then to have a moment to help people understand they're made in the image of God and they have unique gifts and abilities, and to give back to people in a public setting and empower them was just one of my favorite things that's happened so far.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that so much. You have, your influence has grown with each time. You've mentioned that you were forged for difficulty. And you also mentioned that, that this one particular project, you looked around and said, is there anybody else more qualified? But that's kind of been your story, right? Your growth story is that there hasn't been anyone else. Oops, I guess that's me. That means I'll do this, right?
Yeah.
And you have, and you enjoy that.
Oh, yeah, I love that actually. And I was thinking today, because I'm now with a new team, and when things get chaotic and things get hard and there's a lot of movement, I get quiet and I have to think and I look and I listen. I'm not always a good listener because I like to talk. But in the middle of the stressful environment, I get quiet because I need to assimilate and find the gap. I need to find what people aren't seeing in the midst of the emotion and then bring things down a little bit to really look at that root cause. And so I have to remember, I need to tell folks that I'm doing, it's not that I don't care and I'm not emotional about it. I get it. But it's finding and building a discipline of bringing order to chaos and bringing peace to difficulty and bringing reason when it's tough to find. I really want to be that person that brings hope in difficult situations. And so I think God has forged me for difficulty for that reason.
That's awesome. So in doing that, you've come into more of your identity.
Sure.
Yeah. And how has that affected the impact that you have?
Yeah, it's funny. So I'm a little goofy. And I, when I'm comfortable with somebody, I'll joke and I'll show my true self. And I've always been kind of reserved with that in certain settings. And so the more I'm comfortable with showing folks love, the more I'm comfortable with being a little goofy, the more that I feel like I'm being authentic, and it gives people space to be authentic as well. In the workplace, we spend a lot of time here. In fact, we see our coworkers more than our families a lot of times. And it doesn't need to be a mechanical thing. We are not machines with an input and an output. That's not us. We're human beings. And so I used to think, gosh, I think I'd like to end up in ministry. And that's completely not my path. And I'm totally okay with that because the workplace is my ministry. One of the things that you and I have talked about is, this technical skill. Yeah. It's great that you got this technical skill. But it gives me voice with people that I would never have voice with, and influence with people that I wouldn't have influence otherwise. So I am just very grateful that my ministry is the workplace, because I'm going to be working for a long time. And, and, it's multiple environments that I get to work in and influence and learn the people.
And your vehicle for influence is that technology. It's also your intellect, which you and the way that you think differently, which you didn't always appreciate, but you do now, and you see the benefit. And so, yeah, just owning that and going, this is who I love it that you said I'm kind of goofy, and when I'm just, relaxed and I'm free to be who I am, there's more impact. People feel that, don't they? I mean, people really feel it when you're being genuine, and it really makes a difference.
And as a leader, I want to work arm in arm with my people to drive change. I want the people with me. I don't want to be out in front on my own. We need to do this together because we're stronger together. And I think that's such a relevant message for this time. A lot of times we look to that leader or that person or this, but you know what? We need to be doing this together. How can we create solidarity and a common vision and find our people to lock arms with?
Yes.
Whether it's in the workplace or whether it's in your church or whether it's in your community, like we have got to lock arms together and not look to any one person to solve the problem.
I am so on board with you with that. Absolutely. Yes. All right. So all of that together with your voice and your victories, and forming your voice and forming your identity, which increased your impact, all of that leads to more of a sense of purpose. And when I think of purpose, there's two scriptures that are just like, in my mind, they're tied together. Ephesians 2:10 talks about how we are God's masterpiece, created by him for good works that he planned before we were ever born. That's incredible that every single one of us has a uniquely designed, God-given purpose. But then again, you look at John 10:10 and you see that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And I believe those two are tied together. I really think that the enemy, if he can steal anything at all, his priority is to steal our destiny and our purpose, because there is so much power in living out who God calls us to be. So when we talk about purpose, you've got a unique perspective on that, because a lot of people have an idea that your purpose needs to look like this one thing out there, that thing that you're pointing to, saying that thing is my purpose. And that can be an open door for the enemy to steal our purpose, right? I mean, it can be an open door for him to go, see, you don't have that thing out there. So you don't really have that purpose. God has really talked to you about that. And I want you to take some time to share with the listeners about that.
Yeah, I always was envious of folks that knew they were going to be a doctor, or knew they wanted to be an engineer, or knew what they were going to do young in life, and could take the classes and do the things that they needed to do to be successful. And that was completely not me. Some of it was because I didn't have exposure to what could be. Like, I had no vision outside of what I saw. And so I needed to get some exposure to the world to even know what's possible. And that's where I think all of these assignments have been really strategic. And so as things have evolved, I really have been fortunate to be able to trust and let things unfold. And I talked about this on the roundtable the other day, but thy word's a lamp unto my feet. It's not a highway to a destination. It's the next step. And for me, it has really been a trusting each next step in the journey, and knowing that if I take that next step and I have peace, and it's so important to have peace when you're taking a step, have peace. When you have that peace, it doesn't matter what the destination is, because you're following and being obedient, and you've got a good father that has got a plan and a path. And so I had a friend, I said, why don't I know what that thing is? And she said, because you run ahead before you're ready, because I'm a go-getter. And that is entirely true. I think the other thing is when it's a thing or a goal, or I want to be a this, what happens when you lose that? What happens when you can no longer be a lawyer or no longer be a this? So if you were to ask me what my purpose is, I would probably answer that very differently. I think my purpose is to make the things that I touch and influence better, whether it's a person, place, thing, document, whatever it is. I just want to make it a little bit better. And so I really have been grateful for trusting the journey and trusting each next step.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. I think that so many people can relate to that. I mean, I can relate to that with, thinking, what is that thing? Everybody says, what's that one thing, and I'm like, really? There has to be one thing? How could there just be one thing?
Yeah.
But I think that when the purpose is inside of you, and like you said, inside of you, you want to touch things and you want to make them better, wherever that is. That purpose is inside of you, so that whatever's happening out here, you have the opportunity to live that out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And when I like what you said about peace too. Be sure before you take that step that you have peace. Yeah, I really believe peace is the best compass there is. Like, if you're not sure which way to go,
Don't.
Even you can be afraid and have peace at the same time.
Yep.
And that sounds contradictory. You have anything to say to that? You look like
well, I'd love to actually write a book about this, about the peace principle, because I believe when you're operating and you're listening and you're renewing your heart and your mind with scripture, God will give you peace. And for me, sometimes it's been really tactile and real. Things like I had a mentor named Brenda Harkins who told me to draw what peace looks like in my life. And it could have been anything in the world. And I was very happy with my circumstances and life and friends, and I had no intention of moving. And I drew a picture of hills and a barn, which was something I remembered in Michigan. And then come to find out, a year later, I'm in Pennsylvania, and I turn over and I look outside my window from my bed, and there's hills and a barn. And things like that just encourage you when life is hard. And so, I know sometimes it can be tempting, and it's been tempting for me to run from a circumstance, run from a job, run from a relationship, but you don't want to be running from something. You want to be running to something and have peace about that. And so I would love to explore that whole topic because I think it's so important, because when things get hard, if you had peace in that step and things get hard and that job is difficult or that relationship is difficult, but I had peace then, and God didn't change. I had peace then, and that saved my marriage, frankly. Year 9, I'm on year 20, year 9. If I hadn't had that revelation, we probably wouldn't be together. God brought us together, and He doesn't change.
Yeah, so true. I love that. And I love, yeah, God doesn't change. And so I love it because I remember the day you showed me that picture about the peace. And I remember the day that you said, look at what's outside my window.
Yeah.
You had moved from Texas to where you are. And so God doesn't change. He showed you what peace was then. Mm-hmm. And in that moment where everything was like, what am I doing here? You look out the window and He's like, and here's your peace too.
Right.
I mean, He's so good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there's a sense of power that I feel when you talk about, or your power, when you talk about how when there's not a job that, I know that you've already talked about this, but I feel like there's more for you to touch on of this. When there's nobody else to do the job, and you look around and you're like, this is what needs to happen. and there's nobody else to do it. When you talk about that, it's like I hear a sense of power rise up inside of you with, then that must be me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there's anything that you can say to somebody who might be listening that's um, struggling with a situation that they're in right now, and they're they're saying, this needs to happen, but there is nobody to do that, and so they're wanting to throw in the towel. Maybe they're wanting
Mm-hmm.
to walk away. Would you have an encouragement for them right now?
Oh, for sure. It can be easy to be overwhelmed by a situation or circumstance. And when you find yourself being that person, that it looks like it's you and you don't feel like it's you, know that God has gone before you and he has equipped you. And what may be needed may not even be what's being asked for. So you may have a different skill than even what they're looking for. And if you're standing there alone and you have peace about it, even if you're uncomfortable or nervous, God's got you there. And he will stretch you into those situations. You will learn, you will grow, and you can do it. Because if you're the one standing there and you've taken each step, right, with peace, and you're here and you're not sure, you got to push through it because you are called to that situation. So don't be afraid. Don't let that fear steal your opportunity. It's through those moments, man. It's through that stretching that we grow. And that's been so encouraging to me because, you don't always feel equipped. You don't always feel like, do I have the answer here? And you know what? And sometimes that situation puts you in a situation where you ask for help, because we're not meant to do it from our own strength either, right? You might be the person to lead it, but you need to look at the resources around you and say, okay, how do we make this work? And that would be a better result in a lot of cases. And you would be locking arms with people instead of having a single equipped leader that did it. You're moving people through change. So don't be discouraged if you don't feel equipped. It's going to be all right.
Man, I'm excited. I'm excited that you shared that because I honestly feel like God just dropped that. Like somebody needs to hear that. And so if you're listening and there's a situation that you're in and you're like, how do I do this? And is what she's talking about, is that for me? I just want to say, yeah, it probably is. Like, follow Dawn's advice and see what happens here, Okay, that's exciting. Wow, a lot has happened in your life to get you to the place of recognizing that you're a VIP. I think we're all VIPs. We all have a voice and influence and purpose and power. We just don't always recognize it. And so that's what these talks are about, to, the real people on real journeys discovering these things. And if each one of us could, how powerful would that be to all the people around us, right?
Yeah.
So if you had something that you could leave the listeners with here, Dawn, that would leave them encouraged, give them some hope, inspire them, what do you want to leave them with today?
Yeah, I would say speak your truth as you understand it today. Leaving yourself open to growing your own wisdom through God's word. Keep an open heart for God to shape you and shape your perspectives, but don't let that keep you silent. We have to vocalize and speak out. And lastly, use your experiences to serve others who are also on this journey. There's no coincidence that you went through a situation. It's for your growth, and then it's to replicate into others, because they may be going through and may need to hear exactly that word and exactly that encouragement from your experience. So don't be afraid.
So good. Don't minimize the things you've been through. Somebody else needs to hear that experience. That's good. Dawn, you're awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us. I know that you have encouraged people today. And so thank you for that. And thank you for everyone that is listening. We're just so glad that you were here with us. We hope you're on your own VIP journey. Feel free to reach out to me at Brenda@loudisnotalanguage.com, or just check out the website and see if there's anything there that might help you along on the journey. we're with you and we're for you. All right. You all have a great day. Bye, Dawn. Thank you so
Bye.
much.